Hi, I'm Jim Motley from SSL and I'm here at AudioMidi.com headquarters today to talk to you about the SSL Matrix. Matrix is a system that we have devised to be a studio hub, somewhere that connects all of your analog gear, all of your computer gear, and gives you a workflow as if you were in a traditional large-scale studio. First and foremost, Matrix is a super analog SSL console. It uses exactly the same circuitry as we have in the AWS 900 Plus and Duality large format consoles. This super analog technology is a circuit design philosophy, which means that we have high headroom, very low distortion, very minimal phase shift and a full wide analog image. It also gives you an extended frequency response. The -3 dB points on the Matrix come at 6 Hz and 170 kHz. And between 20 Hz and 20 kHz, which is the frequencies your computer thinks exists, it's linear. Well, to be truthful, it's not entirely linear. It's plus 0.0005 dB minus 0.001 across the 20 to 20 range. A lot of features that the Matrix has are pretty impressive, but it's very important to remember that it's an analog mixer first and foremost. Running down the channel strip, at the top of the channel we have an input meter and a trim control. Each channel actually has 2 active inputs, one to connect your mic pre's or synthesizers to, the other for your DAW returns to come back and monitor from tape, as it were. We then also have a direct output on each channel with its own gain control. This can be pre-insert, post-insert or post-fader if you want to use the fader to ride your direct out levels. We then also have a Q stereo bus. This allows you to assign headphone mixes for an artist that you're working with, and this is assignable between 1 and 16 channels, however many you need for the job. We then also have 4 aux sends with 4 stereo aux returns and an analog pan pot. So on mixdown, this is a 40 input analog console. One thing that differentiates the Matrix very much from other things on the market is actually something where it got its name from. An insert matrix. Instead of putting a single insert on every channel, we put 16 floating insert points across the desk. Instead of having to use a patch bay, you simply connect all of your outboard equipment direct into the back of the Matrix. On the screen now we have the Matrix editor. On the right hand side of the screen we have our devices which we can label. In this instance SSL EQ, SSL compressor, but any other outboard you have is perfectly acceptable. In the centre of the screen it shows the 16 channels of the desk. If I want to load, say, my SSL EQ, which I have connected in device 1, but I want that on channel 7, I simply go to the list, bring in devices, and my SSL EQ is now inserted on that channel. And I can load that anywhere, anytime, on the desk at any point. What we can also do is create chains of hardware devices, just as if they were plugins. If you work with a singer and you always have the same mic pre, EQ and dynamics combination, I can store that. So if I go to the bottom and say new chain, and we can call it chain 5, I can say when I'm tracking singer number 5 I always use this compressor, I always use the mic pre that I have here, and I can put up to 6 pieces in a chain to record with. When I want to track the singer number 5 on, say, channel number 9, I simply go to channel 9, go to chains, and then I can load up my mic pre EQ dynamics combination with one touch. This means moving from session to session, your recall is very quick. The console itself also has Total Recall, which is a system that we invented back in 1981. And this coordinates with our X-Rack, which you see on the right of the console. So all of your EQ, dynamic, bus compressor and mic pre settings are stored in exactly the same place as your desk recall settings. Again, very quick to juggle between job to job. So we have a 40 input analog mixer. We have a recallable 16-way routing patch bay where the settings are stored on your computer with the rest of your session data. The final feather in the Matrix's cap is the fact that it's also a DAW controller. When the blue light on the console is lit, it's an analog machine, and I can use these V-pops to control my fader levels inside my DAW. When the blue light's out, these faders now control my DAW, and the virtual pots on the top can control my analog volume levels, a bit like big fader, small fader on a traditional SSL console. I can also switch the V-pots to be my aux sends, to be my pan pots, to load plugins, to control virtual instruments, and I can even flip those controls out onto the faders. So if, for instance, you want to do frequency and gain at the same time on an EQ, but you're a fudgy-fingered drummer just like me, 2 hands on 2 knobs can be difficult, so getting it on the fader is great. The Matrix can actually control 4 different DAWs simultaneously. We as a company are kind of format agnostic. We're not going to dictate to you, the working engineer, how you should be working. But it's down to us to find ways to help the way that you do work. So I can set up one layer on the Matrix to, say, control Pro Tools for when you have a Pro Tools session. If I'm working the next day on a Logic session, at a simple press of the button, the entire console reconfigures itself to work with Logic. If I'm rewiring Reason into Logic or Ableton Live, another flick of the button and the console reconfigures itself. All the while maintaining the fact that it's a 40-input super analog console with the same heritage and technology as our other large format desks. The Matrix also has analog fader automation. Obviously one of the benefits of analog summing is a wider soundstage, some more depth, some more cohesivity of the image. And in order to retain as much of that as possible, we want you to be able to automate analog volume rides. But instead of putting an SSL automation computer inside the board, we've set it so each fader can respond to a double precision MIDI message. You can draw in your fades, your cuts, your jumps and boosts for the chorus, just as you would do with DAW software, but it handles things in the analog domain to give you true fidelity within the recordings. We then have a few nice touches inside the machine. The faders themselves are slightly recessed. This is so that if you want to put a keyboard on the top or a MIDI controller, when you flip the faders, it doesn't send it flying. People told us that the writing and mixing processes are pretty much interweaved these days, so we tried to make it flexible that you can write with a keyboard as you mix. The problem comes if you've got a keyboard or a controller on the top, how do you access your DAW? Well, we can turn the master fader into a controller also. So I can have this fader to control my DAW, while these faders control my analog signals. Or I can have these faders controlling my DAW, while this fader controls my analog signals. As I've said, we see Matrix as an enabler. We want you to know the way that you work, which I'm sure you do. And this is here to help you to be able to do that. Also inside the Matrix, we have a master stereo AD and DA converter that we designed in-house ourselves. This has 2 connectors on the back. It's in AES EBU format for a more professional standard, but it also has an optical SPDIF, so you can plug it direct into your Mac. You can use that as a master input AD converter, or if you're using iTunes as a reference player, you can bring that up into the monitor section. People who worked with a lot of DAWs also told us that they missed a real center section from the console. So in Matrix, we put that back where it belongs, in front of the engineer. There's one section for the control room, where we can listen to either of the 2 main mix buses, mix or record, in traditional SSL file, or we can listen to our external inputs, or all of them together. We have a separate center section for the artist mix, so you can put some EQ on there, built in on the desk, or the talkback mic that's built in will feed to the artist, and you can send them a different mix to what you're working with in the studio. We also have our 4 stereo effects returns and 4 master sends, and our 3 analog mix bus masters. When we assign the Q stereo bus as the second input on mixdown, this gives us 32 full channels, and I can assign any of the aux sends to either the main channel or to the Q stereo. So again, big fader, small fader. The idea of Matrix is to take the Serious Project Studio and make it work better. You probably already have a powerful computer with a whole bunch of plugins. You have a few choice pieces of outboard that you can't live without, maybe some channel strips, some dynamics or some EQ. You know that the power is in your workflow from your computer, but the way you want to work is more tactile, more creative, in some cases more traditional. Matrix allows you to work as if you were with a big desk, but while harnessing all the power that's inside your DAW with the full big hit sound that you get with an SSL console. Here at AudioMidi.com headquarters, we have a Matrix on permanent demo. So if you're interested, please get in touch with the team and we'd be happy to take you through it. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and if you have any questions, please email or call us in and we'll help you out.